Hello, everyone. This is Monsef Afkar, and thank you so much for joining us in this new call of Your Divine Uniqueness. Yeah, we're happy to have you with us again today. And also thank you for those who will be listening or watching the replay. And also, I'm very excited that Roger Burnley is with us on the show for the first time. Um, I really love his message. It's very empowering. I've been watching several or many of his videos on YouTube, and as you said, they are like every time like I watch a video, it's very related and very accurate regarding on what's happening, whether in the world or in my personal life. So it's been very inspiring, and I love how it is very empowering and reminds us of our true power and the power of choosing um, to really express our truth to receive what we deserve. Because many times we've been either hiding or maybe feeling not worthy of what we are able to create in our life. And this it's just limiting beliefs that block the way we create our life. And I love the way Roger express his message and guide us into embracing our true power. It's yeah, I really love it. It's very inspiring and empowering. And also he is the channel of Wilhelm. He will be sharing about him in a little bit, and then we'll be challenging him. And also, he is an intuitive empowerment and life purpose coach, sage, and mystic. And today's call is about our planetary ascension. And so Roger will be talking about that, and then he will be channeling Wilhelm in about that. And also, we'll be taking your questions. So if you are on Zoom app, you can raise your hand by pressing reactions, then raise hand to ask your questions. If you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. And also, you can type your questions on the chat boxes on Zoom or on YouTube. And yeah, so with that, Roger, welcome to the show. Happy to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad I'm here. And yeah, you talked about hiding. And so you mentioned that some of us are hiding. Yeah, I've been hiding for a long time. So I'm glad you pulled me out. And many people are doing that. And that's why I wanted to talk about, and this day is so perfect, actually, to talk about planetary ascension because nothing is happening accidentally in our world. There's a post that I did just today, actually. It's on my site, anyadvicefortoday.com. That's where my writings go. And it says nothing in our world is happening accidentally. But in there, there's a message that I received 3 years ago on this date that said, the salvation of your world is up to you. Basically, that's what it's saying. And that
Mhm.
means each of us. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah,
Why the world looks the way that it does and why we are here.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's as we say, like the way the word, like it's like the way we see it, like on the surface now, it can be very, very confusing. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love the subject today because it can bring a lot of clarity about that. And yeah, so but before that, I would love if you can tell us about yourself, your work, and yeah, your message in general.
Okay, let me go back. I mean, I've had a very long life, and I tell people all the time because I need them. I'm 73 years old now, and I have been through so much life and experienced so many things in our world. So I do understand. But doing this was never what I was going to do. I all of the other jobs that I had earlier in my life were something in business or, running someone else's business or any of that. And then 1988, I went back to one of my first loves, which was singing. But then what I started doing was becoming a vocal coach. But I didn't want to do that either because I thought, oh, I can't really do that. I'm not really capable. And my coach said, no, you have to do this. You know more than you think you know. This is for all of us. I tell people all the time, I never did anything until I had someone else kind of coaching me and telling me to move because I would stay stuck, as many of us do. But he said, Well, you're going to be better than me one day. He says, I learned everything I did from my coach in New York, and I just incorporated it into myself, and then I just give it back to everyone else. And then you're going to do the same thing, and you will be better than me. He said that to me in 1988. I had no idea what he was meaning by that, but now I do, because that's what we all do. We come in to live something, to develop something, put our stamp on it, and then we provide it for others, and then we all evolve if we choose to do that. Because everyone, my belief is this, and I stand by it 100% because I've seen it, which is why I said I'm a life purpose coach as well. Every single soul born has a valuable purpose in this world. It's just that we don't always understand it. We don't get there because, as you said, the blockages, the limitations, and what we have experienced. And at this particular time, we are moving through huge blockages, which is why it's so chaotic. And they're all generational, meaning that we come in with this information that we've extracted from our parents, our ancestors, all those who came before, and all of it was limited. And then the message that's on the screen today, which is interesting, it said, you have to understand that you've had other lives. We said many of you don't understand or believe that. But if you don't believe that, you would have a very difficult time explaining evolution. And that's what, because it's consciousness. Consciousness is always here. We just decide how much we're going to accept. And this is what they've told me is about raising our consciousness to a higher level of understanding. And we all can do that. But not everyone's going to do that in our world, which is why we're experiencing what we are now. Anyway, so that went on, and let me take it to where we are now, because I did that work for so many years. I'm going to talk about this because people will read that message and they will see 2020 in there, and I'm going to explain that. And a lot of people will probably feel that they were making some sort of movement. Something was happening different in their lives in 2020. There have been many other years, but that would be one of the biggest ones. And most people thought it maybe was about just the pandemic, because that's we were really in the throes of the pandemic then. But my Wilhelm said, no, it's more than that. It's far more than that. You're creating a new world. And that's why you're all here, is to create the new world. And the way that you do that is by creating your new life, meaning owning who you are, taking the steps to bring your gifts to the world. They keep harping on that because the other thing they say is that you don't think you have gifts? Why would you have been born? Every single soul has a gift and it was given to you. It just, you uncover it as life moves along. But not everyone's going to do that. But then we start to understand everything's energy. And when we start to get the idea, we can go into all the sciences of that, which I was led to start to study a little bit, looking at listening to geophysicists and people like that to understand, oh, the world is changing and we're going to be affected, and we're affected energetically in our bodies and all of that. It's all a big maze that we're all connected with. And that's what's going on now. And so when I talk about planetary ascension, I wanted people to understand that that is what is occurring, because it looks like everything is falling apart. And my guide said, no, that's not happening. So what happened was and I'll tell the story because I want everyone to have this. In 2016, I knew I had to start moving in another direction. And I had this big business doing vocal coaching, and we had made, more than $1 million over years. And I mean, I was just doing great. And I said, oh, but I think I'm supposed to move in another direction now. And people didn't understand, why are you giving this up? I mean, literally, I was giving it up to kind of go broke because I had this other thing that I knew I had to do, because I said the world's changing and people are going to be afraid. And I still wasn't ready to bring forth my writings and my Wilhelm. I wasn't going to do that yet. I struggled for so many years. First of all, when I started in 1988. And I would receive messages, and it's cosmic guidance that I'm getting every single day, because I had to do it every day, because my life was a mess in so many places, and I was going through so many challenges. And every day I sat down and received a message, it was helping me. But I didn't want to tell people about that. I didn't want to tell them what I was doing, even though I am like healing and transforming, but I'm still embarrassed because it was weird to me, and no one's going to understand it. And so, but I kept feeling I need to give people something. So in 2019, I wrote a book Well, I didn't really write it. I did write it, but I had help. My friend Cam Kaminsky, who was the one who contacted you, she was the one who said, you have to write this. And so I knew in my head I had to do it, but I kept holding back. And she would send me an email almost every day. Did you write something? Did you do something? I said, no, not yet. Because see what I had to do, and I knew I had to do this, I had to be completely transparent. And I say right in the preface of the book, oh, the book is called Overcoming Fear, A Guide to Freedom. And right in the beginning of it, I say, I really wanted to write this book, but it took a long time. I had one problem, fear. And the fear was not about what it was going, it was about me becoming vulnerable and exposing who I was. And that's the problem we all have. I mean, most people, I'm just going to say most people have that. And it's this gradual acceptance that we must move through in our consciousness to understand our worth and value in this world, because everyone has it. But we also have that past that we got to move through too, those restrictions. So that was, so then I did the book. So the book's out in 2019. And then in 2020, my messages began to change. And I go, oh, what's happening? We, even before the pandemic started, even before we knew what was going on, I was receiving messages about a restructuring. It says your world is going to move through a restructuring. And then they started telling me, and the United States would lead the way. I live in the United States. I'm going, what does this mean? Made no sense to me. And most of the messages that I was receiving, I would hesitate for a long time because I'm very clear about what I'm hearing. But I said, I don't want to tell people because they're going to be too afraid because I can feel what's coming. But they said, no. They said, you have information that can help. That made no sense to me either. And I'm just going to tell the weird story because we have to get beyond our disbelief of what we can do and how things happen. But I went out for a walk because that was the only way I could get exercise at that time. We were just coming out of the pandemic and it was 2021. And I hear very clearly, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. That made no sense to me either. I come into my house, I go to my computer, and I'm led, because we are always led, I led to a folder, and I opened the folder, and it said Wilhelm. I didn't know it was there. I hadn't looked at it. And I opened it, and the messages were from 2012. Then later on, they started making connections. Well, why would that year be so important? And people can go back and look at this. There was a time, you can find something called the 2012 phenomenon, because there were so many things, events were happening in our world during that time. And then other people thought that the world was going to end because we were given information. There was the Mayan calendar. And people who had studied the Mayan calendar kind of knew that, wait a minute, this is when the world was supposed to end in 2012, because that's where the Mayan calendar ended. And people were doing stuff like getting rid of things. They were getting, because we're just going to all die. And I went back on that date, which was supposed to happen on the solstice, December 21st. And I said, well, what did Wilhelm give me on that day? And it was the message, the title of the message was wait. I go, wait for what? What am I waiting for? That the world's not ending, you're building a new one. And the way you're going to do that is to move through all of your old restrictions and let go of all your biases and all your doubts and all of that. And so, and because you've lived this, they're telling me, because you've lived this and you can show the results, we gave you this work to give to others. Still didn't believe it. Still going through the doubt. And then I said, and I did other things, as we all will have these doubts when things are coming to us. And I had never had an Akashic Records reading done. And I'd heard about it, didn't know much about it, but I decided I got to have one. I did one in the summer of that year. And the lady, she said, oh, I think I'm supposed to be following you. That's what she says to me after the reading. I didn't know what she was talking about. Then I said, but I wasn't satisfied with that. I'm still having this doubt because I'm hearing very clearly what I was given. And then I had another one done in December of that year. And this lady was so good. And she started giving me all of my past. She says, you have ancient memory. She took me back to Egypt. She took me back to all these things. And then she says, you were given something. This is the thing. I have this video and I've shared a bit of it, but because in the video, filmed, I recorded the session itself. And in the video, she's talking and she's reading things. And then she comes to the point, she says, in Egypt, you were mummifying people, which was so funny. But that was a high job because that was really an honorable job. And she goes, but in this life, you're supposed to be, it's different now. You're supposed to be awakened. First, she started talking to me about my writings, which she didn't know anything about this. And she says, your writings. And then she said, but now you're supposed to open the minds of people and you were given something. And she started saying, operating. And then I just broke down in tears. I just lost it because what she was saying was what I heard. Because they said, we gave you a philosophy and it's called your life operating instructions. And what that means is you have to operate in a new way now to move into the new world. And that new world is this fifth dimension, the age of Aquarius, all that we've all thought of or heard about. We thought it may have been before. They said, no, it's now. And in the way you move there is by deciding to move through your limitations, move through your biases, your judgments, your hatred, your anger, all of those things, because everyone has them. You have them generationally. And if you're not willing to move through them, then you keep creating chaos. Then they started telling me, and I'm getting all this information, I'm writing this, and they said, well, you might have some wars. You might even bring in a leader like a Hitler. I go, what? I said, do I have to write this? And they said, yes, because you're going to bring light. You're going to bring more awareness, because if people understand what's happening, they won't be as frightened. And then if they're not frightened, then they can become themselves. Then they can become happy. Then they can do something and the energy will shift in the world. That's what I was told. That's where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your journey and how it unfolded because, how to say, it's like we see a reflection of us, and it empowers us to also have more trust and embrace our gifts. And also, I love that you mentioned earlier that we are here to create a new world. So we are not here to wait for the world to change for us to be ourselves.
Yes,
we are creating the new world, and that's
Yeah. And I love the fact that so many channels out there, people say co-creating. And if we think of that, because we're using the energy of the universe, of God, of Allah, or all that is, whatever term we might think of something beyond ourselves, that's what we all use. But then when I was told, well, you're going to do something a little different. They told me I'm supposed to marry science, spirituality, and human potential, because we have potential, but we have to develop it in each person. And so this work can give people the idea of how they can develop theirs, and then they will help others. We're all meant to ascend to this higher state of our being, and that's what we leave in the world. They said, think about your legacy, because we never think about that, but it says every soul will leave one, because it's about what you live and how much you decide to own yourself and love who you've become. And then you become an example for others. And in every channeling session, you might have heard this, they will say, if you looked at your world, you can see it doesn't look the way it did 100, 500 years ago. How do you think that happened? Somebody created it.
Yeah. And also a question I had is, because the subject is our planetary ascension, and also you mentioned the wars that we are experiencing. It's one after the other. So how do you see like this unfoldment on Earth, like wars and these dualities, in relation to the ascension?
Okay, this is the other thing that would come through in so many channeling sessions. They said the world that you want to see is not guaranteed. I go, what do you mean? I want it to be what I want it to be. And it says, no, you're creating it, and you create it energetically. We can start to understand the science of that. And when we understand the science of our bodies and how we can heal ourselves through different energies, through healing, we've done it in so many different ways. But what I did was healed everything just through my mind. And I didn't think that was possible at all, because I had every illness and disease and sickness under the sun. I was plagued by them my entire life. But what I kept doing was taking the next step into uncovering why I was resisting who I was. And every time I did that, I would heal something, and it just didn't make sense. Doctors couldn't even explain it, what I was doing. And then to be here now at this age and like, wow, I'm better than I've ever been in my life after going through so many other things. People want me to talk more about that. And I will talk more about the different mind-body connections and healings and all of that. I put certain things out. I did one where I talked about how I healed my cluster headaches, which people said you can't do. I mean, there's something you suffer with your entire life. That's never true, because I healed that. And then I also had chronic back issues. And I thought, oh, I watched my father being incapacitated for much of his life with back issues. So I thought, okay, I just inherited that and I'm going to have to suffer the same thing. That was never true either, because I healed that. I had help with that. People that I've studied over the years gave me so much information about the mind-body connection and healing. And so that's why I was able to do it. I just used their stuff, which is what we're all meant to do. But again, be really transparent. I never wanted to do this because people don't understand this. I'm incredibly introverted. I don't like putting myself out there. Anybody who knows me, I don't approach people in social media. I don't even like it. I mean, it's like too much. I don't do that. And so I had to find a different way of putting information out. So one day I'm sitting and I'm like so frustrated because I know exactly what's happening and I know that I have to do more. And my Wilhelm said, "You have to start talking." And I said, "I'm not going to do that." And then I finally acquiesced and decided I would do it. And so in 2021, I started doing live channeling sessions. And then more information started coming through that even gave me greater detail about what was happening. And then I figured out why the United States was leading the way and why we're in chaos right now. And I said, I don't get it. Then I started finding out the astrological aspects of what was happening and why these years were so important. When the United States was formed, 1776, well, we'll just say technically that's when they signed the Declaration of Independence, and they made certain promises that they were going to do. Well, when we do that and we don't live up to them, then we have what is a period of reckoning. In our physical lives, we can think of certain things. A lot of people might have heard of a Saturn return, which is something that every human goes through when we're around 30 years old. That's when we start questioning everything. Who am I going to be? Where am I? That goes on. But a Pluto return takes 248 years. So no human has experienced that. But we are all affected by the energies of our planets. And so Pluto was moving, and it's still doing that now. And we have another year of it doing that. But in that doing, it said, okay, look at everything you guys haven't done that you wanted to do, where you wanted to create a better world. And you're here to do that. And that better world can only be created when you decide to become who you're meant to be in this lifetime. That's each of us. And so that's how it started. So I finally got pushed to do that. And then and people will see this, but I also hid some of them too. I just found one the other day, and I posted it on my YouTube channel because it was channeled on October 30th of 2021. But most people hadn't seen it because I kind of stuck it away and didn't share it. But I put it up the other day, and now it makes sense. I receive information precognitively before it's ever happened. So most times when I'm speaking, people have no idea what the heck I'm talking about because they're not seeing it. And that's what goes on in our lives a lot of times. We can't see everything. And this is intangible thing that we have to hold on to. And it's always our intuition. It's always that consciousness that's coming to us. But believing it and hanging on to it is what causes us the greatest challenge. But I had to let go of that. So then in December of that year of 2021, I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I was torturing myself. There are videos people will hear, and my Wilhelm talks about this because I didn't believe it. And they said, Roger would go back and look at all the messages we gave him in 2012 to try to find a bad one. And he couldn't do it. And that was true. And then they told me something else that didn't even make sense. They said, and if you meet somebody and we gave you a message on their birthday, it will resonate for them. And I said, that's nuts. And I was reluctant to try it, but then I started doing it. And then it happened. It happened just before I came on this call with somebody. It's just, and that was to say that we are all connected in consciousness in this higher dimension. And we come to the physical plane, this 3D earth, to live out something. And that's what we're doing now, all of us. But we're all intimately connected. Ultimately, what we're trying to get back to is a state of oneness, where we remember our connection, and everyone can do that, but we're not all going to do that, which is why we keep having wars. That's why we're holding on to old grievances within us, and those are generational. And if we don't heal within ourselves, we can't expect to see other governments and countries to stop the wars unless we do it, because everything is energy in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love your answers. And yeah, it really clarifies, because many times we can feel confused or maybe sad and trying to change the world. But we start within first. We start by ourselves, and then we can guide others and inspire those who choose,
Yes.
like you mentioned.
I'm so glad you said that, because there's so many of us, and you've had this, I know you've had this, where we have this idea, I'm supposed to change the world. I'm supposed to do something to change the world. We haven't when we're kids or younger, and then we said, no, that's insane. That's crazy. Well, why? Why? Who's supposed to do it if it's not us? But I will say, well, what came up for me later, because I always had these grandiose ideas of what I was going to do, and most times they just kind of blew up in my face because it's not the way I was meant to do it. But it said, no, you're supposed to do this in a collaborative way. You're supposed to work together. And that's where we're going, because that's the age that we're attempting to move into, where we're more connected and understanding the importance, not just us, but of all people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I just want to share a feedback on YouTube from Erica. Since meeting Roger, I have come to understand my intended purpose. I have also become aware of the value of all of the experiences I've had and how they contribute to my purpose. Amazing feeling. Thank you, Erica. And yeah,
I live for that.
And so do we move to the questions, or would you like to channel Wilhelm?
Sure, yeah, we can do that. And if people have questions to ask, but we can start, because they are giving me something that we can give to everyone. We're so pleased you're here, and we have waited for you your entire lives. Now, we know that doesn't make sense to many of you who have never even heard us before, but if you listen today, you will understand you've always been connected to us, because we are speaking to you from your higher self, that greater consciousness that you all possess, but you just kind of recognize it and come to it at a certain time. Now, you think that things are happening accidentally. You're not even here accidentally. We even planned that. Yeah, you'll have to think about that a little bit, but we put a message on our site, as our being just told you, and it's called "Nothing in Your World is Happening Accidentally. You just come to figure it out later. And none of you are here accidentally. You have a mission, you have a purpose, you have something you're meant to fulfill, and it was this time. Now, your age has nothing to do with it. You each have individual timelines that you're moving through, your evolutionary journey, and it's coming into this incarnation, this time that you're living, so that you can move through those limitations and restrictions that you've had. You've carried it in your DNA. Then when you let go of it, you release a new energy, and it's an energy of love, and it's loving of yourself. But it is a process, and you have to be willing to take it. You must understand not everyone will do that. We gave you a message 3 years ago on this date. That's what we posted today, and we said the salvation of the world depends on you. That means each of you, and that's the collective you that we're speaking of, because the more of you who decide to love yourself and let go of the old stuff, you shift the energies of your world. But as we've said, you have a little bit more to go, because the planets are also affecting what's happening in your world. And as we spoke of, the energetic changes that are happening, you've never experienced these times. That's why it's so traumatic for many of you, but that was purposeful purposeful as well, because sometimes you don't move until you become afraid, until you become in doubt and fear. And as we've said through all of our talks, that what our purpose was to help you move through your fear and doubt, because you're supposed to be these great beings, each of you. You have something that's meant to be developed, and that energetic connection that you put into your world will start to shift things. Now, we know it's not going to happen tomorrow, but if you start now, you'll be in alignment with what's going to happen in your world by 2025. We're just saying that because we can see how long it's going to take some of you to move, but we also want you to be patient with yourself, because you don't move easily or quickly, and your world doesn't do that either. But the more of you who decide that you're going to take the steps to discover yourself and own yourselves and move through all the other stuff, and the other stuff we're talking about is your judgment, your self-judgment, because you think you did things wrong, you screwed up this, you didn't go in the right direction. That never happened. You were on a path where you were learning things, you were learning new ideas, you were gathering information. And so we want you to forgive yourself, first of all, because that's the most powerful energy that you could use right now to bring in your new awareness, and it's individual for each of you. You have genetic connections. Now, if you look at your DNA, and we love talking about this, and we had our being check out his DNA, and he keeps trying to figure out how he can have all these different races within him, and he's this black person. You all have that. You have something different, but it's unique to you. And so when you figure out your particular journey, which is why we have him take you through a life review, because when you figure out your journey, you figure out the brilliance that's in there that you miss all the time. You all do. And you cannot judge yourself for that, because it's a part of it's a process of evolution. You can't know everything beforehand. Otherwise, you couldn't evolve. There would be no point in you having a life unless you had the restrictions to move through. And that's why you're here now. But we will say this. You chose this time. We know that sounds crazy and unbelievable, but you did, because that means you have something that is so valuable and wonderful to offer your world that if you decide to bring it up and own it, the world will shift. And that's why we say these crazy things to you that none of you believe. We said, if you love yourself, you will change your world. It is really as simple as that, because everything is energy, and your scientists have discovered this and have keep telling it to you, and then it develops over time. Now, each of you will take things from infinite intelligence, let's call it, and that is all the information that has ever existed in your life and in your world, and it's all of your answer, all that old information, but you're supposed to take it now and use it in your life to make it usable and practical in your life, and then that will be your legacy. That will be what you will leave to the world. We have to get you to realize you don't live in your physical bodies forever. Yes, we tell you you're eternal spiritual beings, but you only have a certain time that you're in physical incarnation, and that's the time that you're supposed to make the most of it. You're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be joyful. You're supposed to be in love. And you can do all of those things, which is why we've shown you through our being that you can. You have to have examples all the time, because you don't believe certain things. Now, we will point this out, and you'll go back and you'll hear and read some of our messages, because we told you a long time ago, you didn't believe Jesus, Buddha, or Tesla either, because that's what happens. When people bring in new information, you have a difficulty accepting them, because you also have a limited consciousness that is also generational. It's been programmed into you, but you can break free from it. You now understand that your neuroscience, that's how you create everything, through your brains. Now, that is something you use physically in this 3D world. You use your brains to access more wisdom, more knowledge. And as you do that, you uncover this wealth of information that is within you that you were destined to bring to this world. And then things start to open and expand for you, and you give that to your world. Now, we will tell you, you're going to go through, and this is why we said the United States would lead the way, and you're seeing it right now, because they're being affected by all the things that they didn't do before and all the things that were covered up. This is why everything's changing. You're seeing so many things revealed that have never happened. We said before that you're going to see so many unprecedented things you didn't know that were there, but that's good. That we're using that term because that's relative to humans. However, we know everything is good when you start to see it or look for it. But this particular time can look really stressful. And we said the United States would lead the way because the rest of the world has looked to them for leadership and guidance for years. They haven't always been there because you've had other countries and different civilizations who were the leaders, but you always set someone up. So for the last 248 years, you've had the United States doing that. But now they're going through their reckoning. And it will be great. Don't worry. It's going to turn out because where the planets are moving are going to have things come out in a really higher energy vibrational way. But you have to move through all the stuff. But again, it's going to depend on you. As we've always said, the world that you want to see is not guaranteed, meaning that if you decide that you're going to move through your stuff and love who you are and prosper and shine your light, then more will do that because they'll see you doing it. You are an example for everyone. It's not just who your kids are, any of that. You're an example. Now, the other thing we want to go back to, because some of you have felt that you haven't done it, or you've been working on something so long you haven't gotten there yet, well, this is the time. And we don't want you to use any judgment. Judgment will hold you back. If you start to use judgment or regret about your life or what you haven't done, you kind of miss the point, you see, because you have to understand those things you accepted because you wanted to move through them. They were part of your evolutionary path. And the more of you who move through those blockages, then collectively you start creating a very different world where you're all loving each other, where you're more inclusive, where you're more accepting, but you have stuff to work through. And we told you about the women. Now, the reason we put it into women, we're talking about the feminine energy, the divine feminine. That's what's needed in your world because your world has been off balance for eons, as we've said. Off balance means that you had so much dominance in the male energy that you started killing each other because that's kind of the male temperament. And so when you bring in the nurturing divine feminine, you start to change and you kind of shift the balance. And this is what we've been telling you. You are here to shift the balance in your world, and the way that you do that is by deciding to become happy and successful and prosperous. And we bring up the prosperous part because you've seen all the financial changes and they're going to continue to go on because that's the other thing you've done. You've kept people poor so you couldn't do what you came to do. What we're saying, we're talking about energy again. Even every resource on your planet is about energy, your money, whatever it might be. It's just energy. But when you squander it and give it to only a few and don't allow yourselves to have it, then you come up with the kind of imbalances that you're seeing now. And you have people in certain countries who are starving to death, and there are plenty of resources in your world, but you haven't decided that you're going to share them. But we want more of you to decide that you're going to become the prosperous, abundant beings, because we know that you would make the greatest difference. We know that you would change things in the world and things would be different. But first, you got to start to believe that you can do it. And belief is the main problem. That self-belief is what you all struggle with. Our being struggled with it. He couldn't accept that we had given him this work, and he kept doubting it and putting it away until we gave him the proof of it. Sometimes you need proof before you can take that next step into the unknown of you. But we are saying that each of you have something that's so marvelous and wonderful that once you start to understand it and uncover it, you're going to live these really beautiful lives. But what we would like to do is see if there are any questions, because we could, our being could go on forever, but we don't want to leave you out because we really want you to understand what's occurring and might be happening in your life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Wilhelm, for the message. It was really inspiring. I love every part of it, and also it's very empowering, and also it shows like the nature of our journey, that sometimes we may have doubts we try to hide, but it's okay, because many times we try to judge ourselves when we do that.
Yes, we will have our being. We want to explain this too, because we appreciate your compliment, and we will have our being listen to this later because he won't understand. He doesn't remember. That's what we want to say too. When he's here, when he's in this dimension, he is in a very different place. He's just having a great time. He's in fun and all of that, because that's the fifth dimensional thinking being that you could all experience. And then he comes out of it and he forgets it, just like you all do. But we're saying this because we want you to understand that you're always accepting another level of your consciousness. So judging yourself is, you're never going to remember everything. It's like you don't know where you're going now. However, we will say that if you keep taking the steps in front of you, it will be a brilliant path for yourself.
Wonderful. And can we take questions from the audience?
Yes, please.
So everyone can raise your hand by pressing reactions, then raise hand on Zoom app. If you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. And also you can type your questions on the chat boxes, both on Zoom and YouTube. First, we have feedback from Irieta. Beautiful show, wonderful speaker, valuable information. Truly enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you, Irieta. And yeah, the time to receive questions from the audience. I would love if you can share with us about the program we are offering. It's we have two packages. The first one is 4 weeks to your best life. It's a 4-week program, includes 31 days of guidance and four live calls with Roger, and plus other items as well. And also the second one includes package A plus 30 minutes one-on-one private channel session with you, Wilhelm and Roger. And I invite everyone to visit the page yourdivineuniqueness.com/Roger, yourdivineuniqueness.com/Roger, ROGER. Or you can click on the special offer button, which is on the live events page, later on the replay page, and the link also on YouTube video description and on the chat boxes on Zoom and YouTube. So yeah, I would love if you can tell us about this program.
Yes, we want everyone to understand this. And let's go back. We've given our being a philosophy, and we've called it, and we've told him again, it's called your life operating instructions, meaning that you have to operate in a new way to achieve the things that you want in your lives and to contribute to your world and this planetary ascension, because that's why you're all here. But you don't do that right away. So what we advise him to do is to give you what we had him do, was to sit down every day and change his brain. You don't change overnight, and you have things that you have to use your physical mind to change the limitations that have been there. So you have to be patient with yourself as you're doing that. So what we've done is we've given him all of this work. We had him put it into 4 weeks to your best life, only because he was just not going the whole way. But then he has much more than that. And we said, create a year-long program that's called your last development program. See, because we understand that you wouldn't need anything else, because you all do the same thing. You're presented with information. You will accept it if it's right for you, if it resonates for you. And then you incorporate it into your being, and your awareness, your wisdom starts to grow. And then you start to take the next step in your life. But it's a day-by-day thing. But we also wanted, because this time in your world is so challenging, we wanted you to come together. So we had him create the group calls, and those are the things that he loves the most now, actually, because he gets to see the results of what's occurring, but also it keeps him going. You all need support, and so does our being, because it's so heavy for him, all the information we've given him, and many of you are feeling the heaviness of this time in your world. But when you come together, you lighten that and you uplift everyone. So this is why it's there. So you have plenty of time to do it. You don't have to do it in the 31 days. You can take as long as you like. However, we want you all to keep coming to the coaching calls, because we need more community. And that's what we wanted you to not be alone, because so many of you feel like you're isolated, you're afraid, you're by yourself. And so we had him create something that anybody can do, anyone can afford it. We had him do that. He struggled with that for the longest time, because he knew it should have been so much more. But his other desire is to try to help as many people as possible, because this is a big change that you're all moving through.
Yeah, absolutely. Therefore, thank you so much, and also to Roger for this program. And yeah, so everyone, I really recommend that you sign up for the program. And again, you can find it on the page yourdivineuniqueness.com/Roger, yourdivineuniqueness.com/Roger, ROGER. Or you can click on the special offer button, which is on the live events page, later on the replay page. And also the link is on YouTube video description and on the chat boxes on Zoom and YouTube. Beautiful. So
we have questions?
Yeah, no, we didn't receive questions. Yes.
Oh.
So yeah, sometimes this happens. So they like to listen to you.
Sometimes what happens, and we will tell you, this has happened to us before, when we've given, sometimes when our being gets going, so you receive all the information right there, and you don't have any questions, or you might be still a little bit embarrassed and shy. And we understand that, because vulnerability is the thing that most of you have a little difficulty with, becoming vulnerable and becoming present. And we always talk about our being hiding out for so long, which many of you do, and that's understandable because you're moving into new aspects of yourself that are new to you. It's like a rebirth, and birth was always a little scary for you coming into this physical plane for all of you, and some of you keep carrying that fear of breaking into this world, and throughout your life. However, you're moving into a new one now, and so what we want you to do is to embrace who you're becoming, because you will change. You will come to understand so much more about yourself during this time. Now, it's going to keep going, and you will have a choice, and the choice will be to move into love or fear. When you move into love, you are accepting yourself. You are honoring who you are. You're going on that path of self-discovery and keep opening up those other dimensions of yourself. But if you go into fear, you're choosing to stay hidden. You're choosing to say little, which many of you do. Our being's done that, so we understand it. But we want you to understand that the universe is going to start offering you much more of this in the coming months. This is why we wanted to prepare you for what was coming, because if you uplift your spirit and your love of who you are, you will move through this period in a much better way. But also what you will do, you will help the transition of your world. But it does take a little bit of courage and a little bit of belief in who you are, and that takes time, and we understand that, which is why we've laid out everything in the manner we have.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We have questions coming in. So, Rose, can you please unmute yourself? Yes.
Hello.
Hello there.
I'm here. Hi there.
Hi, Rose.
Hi. I'm very nervous about and shy about asking this question. This is personal. I hope that's okay.
That's the best. That's the best. And you're wonderful. Yes, please give it to us. This is good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to say, I'm really enjoying this dissolving period and the unfolding and everything, and my own awakening journey has just been wonderful, but it has been very much affected by the need for a reliable, consistent income, which I do not have. And I'm basically living on, very little. And part of that, is, I'm confused about is this tied into my life purpose? I feel like my life purpose is my awakening, and I'm completely devoted to that. And, but then I'm pulled in this other direction. Like, I need to provide service in some other way, which will guarantee me some kind of income. So I guess I'm just looking for some advice on next steps, or.
You already took it. You took it just now by bringing this up. You took the step just by asking the question and noticing you were afraid, but your higher self has told you you needed to move. That's why you had to ask the question. You couldn't hold that back. Our being tried to do that as well, but no, you did that. And the money thing is also, we said to many of you, the money confused you because you think you had to work for the money, and that's going to, and that's where many of you even go into in different careers that are not who you are. And then when you start to accept yourself, when you start to move, and then the money starts to flow, because that's energy again. Everything is energy. And so you have something within you, and you've known this. You haven't known it all along, but you've been awakened to it recently. And you said, I'm supposed to do more in this world now. And that is true. You just have to figure out what it is. What we always have our participants do is to write their purpose, write that, because it's in there. And when you start writing and asking yourself the correct questions, it comes about. But you have something that you're going to help so many other people. This is why you're moving through these struggles. This is why you're having the difficulty now, because you still have to break through. And it's just your resistance to that next level, because you felt it for a while. And we even feel that you felt it when you were a child, and it's coming back now for it to be awakened. Is that accurate? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what we want. So don't judge yourself. Please just be patient because you're moving into this greater acceptance and understanding of yourself. And as we said, we've give you a message. We said self-discovery can be frightening because that's how it feels at times. But you can take the steps, and we even give you something as we said, take baby steps. That means each day decide that you're going to become more present, that you're going to become more available. Nothing, you don't have to do anything big, but just moving into this next level of who you're meant to be, because we can feel and we know that you're here to do something, and it's not in these traditional jobs. It's going to be more in the service of helping others. And you felt that. You're just going to figure out how you're going to put it together, and then that can turn into an income. What most of you do is that you think that the things that you love and what you feel the inclination to do won't bring you the income. And we're saying that if it is connected to your divine plan, it will, because it's all energy and divinely organized just for you.
Thank you. I guess I just feel the pressure to make something happen right now. And, you know, I've been very...
Yeah. We'll do this. Do something that you know where you're going, okay? But you just need something to sustain yourself right now. So find any kind of there's so many things you could do. Anything online, any kind of a job, anything that would just bring you the income that will kind of steady the flow right now, so that you can start working on what the real thing you're going to do. We're just saying this because there's another step that you're going to move to in your life, and it's just not there yet. But we don't want any of you to judge yourself when you have to take some sort of work just to survive, because this is a big period. You've accepted a big role in this lifetime. So don't judge yourself. Just find something that can sustain you. If it's just doing something menial, just something online where you could earn something, and then start thinking about, we want you to really think about this. What is the vision for your life? What would you do? And think about it without having any constraints, any kind of money constraints. If you were to do anything that you wanted to do, what would that be? That's what we want you to find, because it's within you, and it's coming up a little bit. You've had glimpses of it, as we say, and as you start honoring those a bit more, the clarity will start to come through. But just find something now that's going to start to sustain you a bit more to get through this period, because you're going to start to blossom when you find the real career that you're going to do and start creating it.
Feel it's me that's keeping me, because I've applied and I've looked and searched, and I mean I've been at this for quite a while, and there's been rejection and no follow-up and stuff. I mean, I'm feeling like I must be doing something that's keeping this from happening, or and sometimes I get to the point where I must not be here for a reason.
No, you are. You just have to figure out something else.
There must be.
Yes, our messenger gave someone else earlier today. We told them, go to ClickBank, just sign up there. You can sell other people's products. You don't even have your own thing. There's so many things that you can do that are not requiring you to be accepted somewhere, but you just have to do a little bit of research. That's all. And so find something that you could be an affiliate for someone else's product that you could sell to bring money in right now. Anything. If you don't want to take those other jobs, if you're not being accepted, you're being guided somewhere else. But you have to become a little more resourceful. And we would say that would be a great place to begin. To look. We had another person the other day that wanted to go into travel. We said, well, just go and look, put in the questions, ask the questions. And we love this new this contraption you've created called Bard, which is an AI thing, search engine, that all of you can go in and start searching. What would be the best thing for me to do next? Where could I get this kind of job? Where would you suggest I go? And you would be surprised at what would come up that you would find, and would give you ideas of where you could go next. There is always a solution, but you all become a little stuck, because when you come into these crisis points in your life, it feels like there's no option. But those are the times where the options will actually start to appear once you let go of the belief that you can't do it. That's all. And so you just have to take the next step in figuring out what you want, and then finding the ways that you're going to sustain yourself as you're creating that. And we felt a little bit of judgment. We don't want you to judge yourself. You're judging yourself that you haven't done. No, you're right in the place where you're supposed to figure this out. That's all. This is why you're here today. You're going to have this awareness that comes to you that's going to lead you to the next thing. You're never alone, and you are supposed to be here. This is what we had on the message, and we want you to read it because it's on the site, because it says you would not be alive now unless you had something to offer this world that is valuable. And don't judge yourself that you haven't uncovered it or lived it or found it yet, because it will come.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all that you have offered me.
Yeah. We will be with you. We're going to keep envisioning you moving into the right direction. That energy and the energy of everyone here is going to have you move in that right direction. And you'll start taking steps that will surprise you.
I appreciate the support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rose. And also thank you, Wilhelm, for the guidance. And on YouTube, Sarah Shirot, thank you so much, Rose, for asking. It's helpful for me immensely. And Kathleen, my biggest frustration is connecting with my inner self and keeping it. Any comments on this?
Yes. Don't try. See, this is the thing that many of you do. You are trying too hard to connect to something, and you're actually working against yourself. It's always there. This is why we advise you to just relax, just meditate, and just see what comes through. When we had our being start doing his meditation, and this is why we also had him create this little program, because he had to figure out his meditation program, because he couldn't do it the traditional ways. And that's what many of you do. You think there's a particular way that you have to listen and find your higher self. No, you just have to be quiet, and then you have to start to believe that it's there, and then you will start to discover it. When we had him do automatic writing, we knew that was going to be the best way for him, because then he could write, and because you make a different connection with your brain, then your higher self, and then you can have things come out. However, you just have to be quiet. You can do this because you already have the awareness. You couldn't have even said those words unless you had the awareness that it's there. But then you're thinking that you're supposed to be there all the time. And that's never true. As we said, as our being is giving this information, he's in a different place. When he comes back, when he leaves here, he has to come back and deal with Roger. And that's not always comfortable for him. Don't try to stay there. You just allow it to develop, because it's gradual that you start to move into that place. So, but you're already on the right track. That's why you asked that question. We just want you to relax, allow it to be there, know that it's going to come, and stop judging yourself that you can't stay there because you're not supposed to. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Wilhelm. And also thank you, Kathleen, for your question. We have a feedback from Tanya, was looking forward to this, and it was well worth it. Roger is amazing. Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, we don't have other questions. So I have a question about, because in these times, we are stepping into a new way of creating, like connecting more with our true self, but also because things are changing and there is some kind of instability, and we start doubting the decisions or also the guidance. Is this our true guidance or it is not? Or we just overthink it sometimes instead of just trusting and following. So what's your perspective about that?
Yes, you would be doing all of that right now. First of all, you don't know where you're going. And so that's going to bring up the anxiety, as we've said. You're going through a birth, a rebirth, all of you, your entire world is doing that. And so we like using this analogy that when you came into the world at birth, that you know, in the womb, you felt perfect. You were great. You were happy. You were hidden. And then you come out into the world, they rip you out of the womb, and then you start screaming because you don't know where you are. And then you have that trauma. And then if you keep carrying that trauma around within you, then every time you're about to make a new birth, moving into the next dimension of who you are, you bring up that fear again. So just understand it's a process. And right now we're saying this because there's a lot of it happening. It's a grandest expansion that your world has ever seen. No one has been through this. None of you have been through this. So yes, it would be challenging. So you just have to allow yourselves to not know. And as we've said, you want everything that you want is in the unknown, and that's the thing that most of you fear. So, but as you start to relax and just allow yourself to have the information and the guidance come to you, it's going to be. And then also, some of you, we had our being create groups, because we want people to come together. And so the more you can go into different groups, whether it's ours or just going into Facebook groups, some where like-minded people, where you can feel the support, and then it starts to grow over time. That's what's going to happen for everyone. So we really thank you for that question, because we want everyone to understand. This is why, again, we wanted to talk about this planetary ascension, so that you could kind of dissipate some of your fear and go into more love, and that's going to be the love of who you are.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Wilhelm. And feedback from Kathleen on YouTube about her question. Wow, I'm cheerful because I can feel it. I'm also doing something. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we want to speak when we want to speak into that, because we're glad that awaken. We want to just show, when we speak, some of you will feel this on a very visceral level, because that means that we are just awakening you to your higher self, and that's guidance that's there that you were unable to really access and appreciate and own. And that's why the tears come, and we say those are tears of joy, and thank you for sharing them.
Yeah, absolutely. And question from Pippa. I am on the path of loving myself and doing so much healing, and have lost many friends who do not accept me as I am during this path, which has been hard, and wondering why, and hope my path will allow me to find my tribe, as I would love to find a new property that would help me to set up a healing retreat. My property has been on the market and it's no movement.
You don't be patient, because you're still moving. This is so brilliant. And so the first setup was you losing your friends. How perfect was that? See, because they were holding you back, because they didn't believe in what you were doing, and that made it difficult for you to believe in who you were and what you were going to do. You have the vision because you've just written it, and so now you have to allow that to kind of percolate. Let's say it has to come up to the surface, and so, but you already set it up. So this is brilliant. But this first part of it, and this is what many of you don't understand, you might move through this. Many of you are moving through this separation of friends, even family at times, because you're individual beings and you have unique life paths, and sometimes the relationships that you had earlier served you for a while but may not now. And so what we're feeling is those friends left, and they didn't leave because of you, they left because of them, because they weren't ready to awaken, and you are, and you have this vision. And so now you freed yourself from that, and didn't feel that way to you, but that's what you've done. And so just be patient, because there will be movement. The energies of your world will keep continuing. And so as you keep building and having the visualization of the right situation showing up, that is what will occur. But just be patient, because these changes are just coming about for you, but you're on such a brilliant path, and we can't wait to come to your retreat.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Wilhelm, and also thank you, Pippa, for your question. A comment from Clarity. She wrote, they wrote, there are refugees everywhere. We need to help them find peace in their own hearts. Love is key to a meaningful life.
Yes. Thank you for that. That is it. And that is what we want you to understand. When you understand energy, the highest, most potent, powerful form of energy is love. It surpasses everything. And this is the thing that we wanted you all to remember during this time, because it looks challenging out there. You're not seeing that, but just understand that no matter what goes on, the only thing that survives, the only thing that survives throughout eternity is love. And this is why the more of you who can muster that within yourselves, you give it to the world, and then you create this collective boomerang of love that's going to start healing your planet. And that's what we're up to helping more of you do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Clarity, and also thank you, Wilhelm. So, yeah, we don't have any more questions. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Okay, that was fun. I'll listen to it later and hear what happened.
Yeah, it was really amazing. Really loved it, and also we got feedback from the audience, which was really
really
beautiful.
Great. Oh, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Roger. And yeah, so do you have maybe any final message before?
I just want everyone to, if they're wherever you are, we're coming up to Thanksgiving in the US. Other places are celebrating something similar. And the more that we can put the energy into being thankful and grateful for who we are and what we are, that's going to help this transition a whole bunch. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. So thank you so much, Roger.
Great, thank you.
It's been really a joy and an honor to have you with us, you and Wilhelm. It was very inspiring, very empowering. I loved everything you shared with us. And also thank you for the program that you are offering to our audience.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. I already asked Wilhelm to talk about that. So just... And everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your beautiful energies with us. Thank you for those who asked the questions. Clarity, Charlotte, thank you all for keeping your dreams alive. Pippa, thank you. And so again, I really invite you to sign up to one of the two packages that Roger is offering to us. And the link again is yourdivineuniqueness.com/Roger, yourdivineuniqueness.com/Roger, ROGER. Or you can click on the special offer button, which is on the live events page, later on the replay page. The link also on YouTube video description and on the chat boxes, both on Zoom and YouTube. And there are two packages. The first one includes 4 weeks to Your Best Life program. It's a live program. And also the package B includes package A plus 30 minutes one-on-one private channeling session with Roger and Wilhelm. And so with that, everyone, I'm sending you so much love, and we'll see you on Scott. Bye-bye, everyone.